What if the simple act of giving away your only meal could unlock a future you never dreamed of? This is Amara Johnson, 16 years old, scrubbing dishes in a diner for just $7 an hour. Tonight, she'll make a decision that will test her heart and rewrite her destiny. At booth 7, an elderly couple looks too poor to afford even a slice of pie. But what Amara doesn't know is they're hiding a secret worth millions. One small act of kindness is about to trigger the biggest twist of her life. But before we dive in, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? And don't forget, hit that subscribe button so you never miss stories that inspire and surprise like this one. The diner was buzzing that night, the clinking of cutlery, the hum of a jukebox in the corner, and the faint smell of coffee that had been sitting on the burner for hours. Amara, exhausted from a double shift, finally slid into the farthest booth with her tray. It was the first real meal she had bought for herself in 3 days, a cheeseburger, fries, and a small soda. She had saved every tip, every spare coin, just to afford it. Across from her, the glass door of the diner swung open with a faint jingle. An elderly couple walked in, thin, weary, and carrying the weight of years on their shoulders. Their clothes were neat but faded, their faces lined with fatigue. They shuffled toward booth 7 and sank into the seats, glancing at the menu with the kind of hesitation that spoke louder than words. Amara noticed the way the old man patted his pockets, pulling out a few crumpled bills, then shaking his head. The woman leaned in close, whispering something that made him sigh. They looked hungry. They looked tired. And above all, they looked hopeless. Her stomach growled at the sight of her burger. She had been dreaming of it all week. But something inside her shifted. She remembered her mother's words. Even when we have little, there's always someone with less. Amara took a deep breath, picked up her tray, and walked slowly toward the couple. The elderly couple stared at Amara, their eyes wide with disbelief. The old man's trembling hands reached for the tray she set down in front of them. "Child, we can't take this from you," he whispered, his voice cracking with both gratitude and shame. Amara smiled softly, shaking her head. "Please, I already ate before my shift. You look like you need it more than I do." Her stomach twisted at the lie, but her eyes remained steady. She didn't want pity. She wanted them to feel dignity. The woman clasped Amara's hand, tears glistening in her eyes. "God bless you," she whispered. The man tried to slip a few coins back into her palm, but Amara gently closed his hand around them and stepped back. Around the diner, the air shifted. A few customers had paused mid-bite, whispering to one another. One young man quietly lifted his phone, recording the scene. The waitress behind the counter wiped her eyes with the corner of her apron. For a brief moment, the ordinary hum of the diner was replaced by something rare: silent respect. Later that night, Amara trudged home through the biting cold, her jacket thin against the wind. Her stomach ached with hunger, but her heart glowed with warmth. She walked past glowing windows of houses where families gathered around dinner tables, the smell of roasted chicken and baked bread drifting into the street. Her own apartment would be different. Flashbacks swirled as she climbed the stairs to her family's small unit. Her mother bent over laundry at midnight after a double shift, her younger brother coughing in the night, medical bills scattered across the kitchen table. Yet through it all, Amara's spirit never broke. She had learned to survive not with wealth, but with resilience and a quiet strength that no hunger could take away. The next morning dawned gray and heavy, the kind of sky that promised rain but held back, leaving the streets damp with yesterday's frost. Amara stirred awake to the sound of her mother already bustling in the kitchen, trying to stretch a pot of oatmeal into breakfast for 3. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee, though Amara knew there was barely enough sugar to sweeten it. She slipped quietly into her worn sweater and glanced at her little brother, Jaden, who was curled under a thin blanket, coughing softly in his sleep. The sight tugged at her heart. If only she could do more, she thought. If only there was a way out of this endless cycle. Just then, knock, knock, knock. The sound echoed through the cramped apartment. Her mother froze mid-stir, brows furrowed. "It's too early for visitors," she muttered. Amara padded to the door and opened it cautiously. On the other side stood a tall man in a dark suit, polished shoes glistening despite the damp street outside. He carried no umbrella, no sign of struggle with the weather. Everything about him radiated control and confidence. "Good morning," the man said, his voice smooth, measured. "Amara Johnson?" Amara's heart skipped. "Yes, that's me." He smiled faintly. "My name is Donovan Hayes. I believe we crossed paths last night, though you didn't notice me." Confusion clouded her face. Hayes continued, his tone gentle but deliberate. "I was sitting at the back booth in the diner. I saw what you did for the elderly couple. Not many people would sacrifice their only meal for strangers." Amara blinked, unsure what to say. Her mother appeared behind her, suspicion etched into her features. "Sir, if this is some kind of sales pitch," Hayes raised a hand. "Not at all. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here because your daughter reminded me of someone I used to be, and I think it's time I return a favor that was once given to me." For a moment, silence filled the doorway. The only sound was Jaden's cough in the background. Amara's mind raced. Who was this man? And why was he standing at their door, speaking as if her life was about to change? Amara and her mother exchanged wary glances. Donovan Hayes stood tall in their doorway, his presence almost too sharp for the faded wallpaper and dim light of their cramped apartment. He looked like he belonged in a skyscraper office, not in their rundown building with peeling paint and creaky floors. Her mother crossed her arms. "People don't just show up at strangers' doors with nice suits and polite words." "What do you want from us?" Hayes met her gaze without flinching. "Nothing. What I want is to give." Amara blinked, unsure she heard him right. "Give?" He nodded slowly. "Last night I watched you give away the only meal you had saved up for. You didn't do it for attention. You didn't even let that couple pay you back. That kind of character, it's rare, and it reminded me of myself many years ago." The room fell silent. Jaden stirred weakly in the bedroom, coughing again. Hayes tilted his head toward the sound, his eyes softening. "When I was younger," he continued, "I was dirt poor. One night someone believed in me enough to give me a chance. Just one chance, and it changed everything. That's why I'm here, because now I'm in a position to pass that chance on." Her mother frowned, arms tightening. "A chance for what exactly?" Hayes reached into his leather briefcase and pulled out a folder thick with documents. He set it on the rickety kitchen table, its polished edges a stark contrast to the chipped wood. "This," he said, tapping the folder, "is a scholarship fund in Amara's name. Full tuition, books, living expenses, everything she needs to study without worrying about money." Amara's eyes widened. Her throat tightened so much she could barely speak. "You're offering me college?" Hayes smiled faintly. "Not just college, mentorship, guidance, a real path forward. You've proven you have the kind of heart this world needs. I want to make sure circumstances don't bury that potential." Her mother shook her head, disbelief flooding her face. "This sounds like a scam. People don't just hand out scholarships to kids they don't know." Hayes leaned forward, his voice steady. "I understand your fear, but this isn't charity, it's an investment. I believe in Amara, and I have the means to make sure she never has to wash dishes for $7 an hour again unless she chooses to." Amara's hands trembled. Pride warred with hope inside her chest. She thought of the diner, of her empty stomach, of Jaden's cough echoing down the hall. She thought of her mother breaking her back just to keep the lights on. Her voice broke when she finally whispered, "Why me?" Hayes's eyes softened. "Because kindness is the rarest currency we have, and you've already proven you're rich in it." Tears welled in Amara's eyes. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't look like a dead end. It looked wide open. Amara's life didn't change overnight, but step by step, the weight on her family's shoulders began to lift. With Donovan Hayes' scholarship and mentorship, possibilities that once seemed like distant dreams started to unfold before her eyes. Her little brother, Jaden, finally received the medical care he had been needing for years. The persistent cough that haunted him at night slowly faded, replaced by laughter and the energy of a child finally free to just be a child. Amara's mother no longer worked herself to the bone with endless double shifts. For the first time, she could breathe, sit down for dinner, and smile without exhaustion shadowing her face. And Amara? She thrived. Freed from the crushing worry of bills and survival, she poured herself into her studies. With Hayes's guidance, she discovered her talent for business and leadership. Teachers who once saw her as a quiet, tired girl now marveled at her sharp mind and relentless drive. Then came the moment she never expected. Her story went public. A customer's recording from the diner surfaced online, capturing the moment she gave her only meal to the elderly couple. The video went viral, inspiring thousands across the country. People called her the girl who gave everything when she had nothing. Letters of support poured in. Strangers wrote about how her sacrifice reminded them of the good still left in the world. Months later, Amara returned to the diner. This time, she wasn't carrying a tray of dishes or counting coins in her pocket. She walked in with Donovan Hayes by her side, and at booth 7 sat the Whitakers, the very couple who had sparked it all. Plates of food covered the table. Laughter filled the air, and for the first time, Amara ate without worry, surrounded by abundance and love. The message was clear. One small act of kindness can open doors beyond imagination. If this story moved you, take a second to reflect. What small act of kindness can you do today? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more inspiring stories that prove kindness is the greatest fortune of all.